I am going to spend the next few minutes describing some of the basic features of the eGauge electricity monitor, which is the device that we installed in your school as part of the Renew Our Schools program. So for this video, I'm going to show you the basic features and kind of how to read the graph. The second video, I'm going to get a little bit more into looking at the data. And then the third video, I'm going to show you some of the deeper features of the eGauge and also what it looks like when a school has solar. Okay, so this graph, first of all, the eGauge. The eGauge is an incredible tool, and it's useful as an educational tool, but it's also useful for your school district. So the facilities staff of your district can use these devices to kind of fine-tune your buildings and make sure electricity is not being wasted. Energy is the second highest cost for school districts behind staffing. The budget can be $2 to $3 million per year. So if your district facilities staff can use these devices to fine-tune your buildings and make sure there's no wasted energy, it can save money for your district, and that money can go back into the classroom to buy supplies, books, and other things that teachers need. As an educational tool, it's also very useful because, first of all, it's a graph, so it's a great tool for your classroom, and it also provides instant feedback to you and your students as to the electrical load of your school, and so that they can kind of work with this data and try to work with the occupants of your building, trying to get it so that there's very little wasted electricity. And students love that. They love to explore and see that instant feedback from any changes that they make. Okay, so some of the general features. First of all, this graph, this shows a 24-hour period for Sunset Middle School. And the reason I chose this graph right here, this is kind of an ideal looking graph. It's what schools should try to aim for. This middle school has been in our program since 2012, so they've really fine-tuned their electricity usage. So this 24-hour period is shown. The date is actually February 22nd. And again, I picked this date because this graph is so great. And then because this shows 24 hours, this blue box up here shows it's a summary for the time period shown in the graph. So for this 24-hour period, the amount of energy used is shown right here. And then the cost, approximate cost, is shown right here. So for this 24-hour period, the school spent about $300 to provide electricity to the building. If the school had a solar array, it would be shown here. This one doesn't, so that's why it's at zero energy generated. The green box over here shows the summary for the last 30 days. And you can see the amount of energy used is right here, and that cost about $7,000 to provide electricity to this building for 1 month. So this is for the time period in the graph. This is for the last 30 days. These purple buttons are great to explore, and I'm going to show you in just a little bit about how to use them. When you look at this graph, this is what it should look like. This is what your building should try to aim for. Very, very low electrical load at night. So when things, almost everything should be shut down in the nighttime when the building's unoccupied. In the morning, as things start to turn on, as the custodial staff enters the building, as the admin staff and the students all enter the building, the electricity use goes up. Schools tend to peak at around lunchtime, because that's when the cafeteria is going and all the classrooms are still occupied and lights are turned on and computers are turned on. So the peak is usually around that time of the day. And then at the end of the day, when students leave, staff leaves, custodial staff leaves, it tends to drop back down to that nighttime low. COVID has thrown a wrench into this system as well as everything else in our lives. But so when you pull up your eGauge graph, it may not look like this, and that's okay. But facility staff will be working with you to try to get your building looking like this graph. Okay, so these buttons up here, as I said, once you get your eGauge, you should really kind of play around and get into this data, and it will really help you understand it. But right now we're seeing the 24-hour period, but you can do a 1-month view, and it shows you all the data for the last month. You can see these are the weekdays when the building has been occupied by students. And then over the weekend, it drops back down to that very low level, and then the weekdays again. Here is the 3-month view where you can very clearly see the weeks versus weekends. 5-day weeks, this is obviously a 4-day weekend. And so then it goes back to the 5-day weeks. You could also, and whatever is shown in this, it relates to this blue box. So right now you can see for this month, $17,000 of electricity usage. Okay, I'm going to stop this video, and I'm going to move on to some of the other features in the next one.